we all know the titles, right? All-Pro, Pro Bowl, All-American, Heisman finalist. But now, T-Bob, we can add Super Bowl champion to my man's name. Honey Badger himself. What's up, Tyrann?
Fellas, how y'all doing? Happy you guys had me on.
Yes, sir.
Always a pleasure to catch up with you, my man. And I've got to ask the first question. What exactly is life like right now? First off, are y'all staying safe? And, how are you getting ready for a season that we're trying to figure out exactly when it starts? But I've got to imagine you're still working out like you're getting ready for it.
Yeah, I'm staying safe. I'm actually in Kansas City right now, and so I believe we have our virtual meetings next week, so we'll see how that goes. But I've just been standing in the house, man, doing some homeschooling with the kids, working out in the backyard, running around the block, really staying fit. I was joking with my fiance, we going into this virtual world. I was trying to explain to her how, this is perfect for me. Like, I've always seen myself make plays, and I've always visualized football. So hopefully this works out for me.
Tyrann, there's so many places that we could go, but I'm going to start here. The news comes out a couple weeks ago, NFL All-Decade Team. Obviously, your competitive drive is unreal. It's unlike anybody that I've ever shared a locker room with.
Thank you.
What did it feel like when you got the news that you had made an All-Decade team?
To be honest, I was kind of shocked. In my mind, there were so many great players, in the NFL, and I spend so much time studying these guys, and I try not to be biased towards myself, and so I say that to say I like a lot of guys' games, so to be mentioned, amongst some of the best, to be a teammate of Pat P again, so just little things, to be on Tom Brady's team, all those things are cool. So really shout out to everybody that voted for me, and shout out to all my peers that continue to inspire me.
Tyrann, the one thing that stood out when that list came out, there's LSU flavor all over it, but in that DB room, if any other team wants to try to say they're DBU after that came out, that just needs to put it all to bed.
Yeah, man. We always took great pride. I can remember me coming in as a freshman and, playing DB for LSU was something, right? Like, it made you feel like somebody. And I think a lot of our guys take it personally. They have great pride in it. They know that they represent something much bigger than them, and so they tend to carry the tradition on, many years after they leave LSU.
Is that something y'all talk about in NFL locker rooms? Because I know when I was playing, we would have those type of conversations. Do y'all get into those type of discussions, have a little fun with it, and you can throw names out like yourself and Pat Pete and Jamal Adams and Tre'Davious White? It's like, guys, I'm just going to keep naming somebody. If y'all name a guy, I've got a guy.
Yeah, and then, I always do that, right? And I throw out these names. People are always like, wow, like, all y'all were on the same team? Like, did you guys win a championship? and I'm like, nah, we didn't win a championship. So, it just really doesn't matter.
Well, okay. So, and that's where I was going to go next, T, because, obviously the pain of 2011 is something that lasts with you for a while. To get that close and fall short was devastating. But you have have you found some healing personally now that you've gotten that ring, like you attained the ultimate goal?
You know what? I was actually thinking about this as LSU was playing the championship, and I'm like, it like hit me right there that my team, the team I was a part of, was the only team to go to New Orleans and not win that championship. So to have those guys bring it home, and then for a lot of those young guys to mention guys like myself and talk about guys like Jacob, and so it makes us feel good, and it makes us feel like those guys were thinking about us, and so I was just happy that those guys pulled it off for me in my hometown.
Well, then, and not just that. I mean, I was even I'm thinking from the Super Bowl angle, right? For you personally to get so close to that championship, fall just short. What did it feel like? You had some measure of redemption when now you could say, I am a world champion and nobody can take this?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I reflected a lot, especially before the game, the night before the game, and, to have the opportunity to go out there and, try my best to not think about playing better than I did the last time I was in a championship game, but to just just go out there with a clear mind and a clear heart and realize that, this is just another football game for me and my teammates to go out here, and do what we do versus, trying to hold myself to the standard of being a champion, just treat them all the same. And I think that's really why I was able to kind of keep a level head throughout that whole Super Bowl week because, I didn't make it bigger than what it was.
Tyrann, you and I had a conversation before LSU and Clemson played on the sideline. It was right after you had the big comeback against Houston. I was asking you about the comeback, kind of, if y'all were worried. And I could tell on your face you were like, "Oh, we had it. It was good." Like y'all never panicked, and that was kind of y'all's motto throughout y'all's run to the Super Bowl. In every game, you would get down, but you didn't panic. You didn't try to play outside of yourself. Is that something y'all had just as a team motto throughout the year?
Yeah, I think really ultimately, I think it's really started with the coaches, and I think myself as a leader, you just really try to understand what the coach wants and his theories, and then you try to bring it to your teammates. And what I thought was a good job of our team, it was our first year, really playing together. And I think a lot of those guys were on the team the year before, but I think it was some important pieces that weren't the year before. And it took us a while for us to kind of click with each other, really start to get a feel for each other. But I thought the adversity that we did had throughout the whole season, we handled it the right way. Even when Pat went down, we was able to go 3-1.
Yeah.
So, not perfect, but good enough. So I just remember little moments like that kind of helped us create our identity.
And speaking of identity, like I said, talking to Tyrann Mathieu here on Hanging with Hester, I've never shared a locker room with a leader like you where the motivation, the competitive drive, it was like something otherworldly was driving you to work more and to play harder. And now that you've reached the pinnacle, where does your motivation come from? Is that edge still going to be there? Like how do you try to keep that up?
To be honest, man, I just think about my life, right? Try to think about all the things I missed out on, and how my story could have been. So I always reach back, to where I was, and try to get some strength to go forward. But it's refreshing. I'll be honest with you, to kind of not have any issues, right? Like have not as much adversity. But I think I'm wise enough to know that it's always a good thing to kind of reflect on the things I've been through. So in my mind, I'm still making up for lost time. I'm still trying to bring back 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
I'm trying to forget about those injuries that I had and make up for all those plays that I didn't make. So I'm just constantly motivated by the things I missed out on, in the past.
Unbelievable, man. Did you see the video going around on Twitter? I can't remember if you tweeted about it or not, but the CBS Highlight video that they just randomly dropped today of you.
Oh, the LSU, yeah.
Yeah. What goes through your head when you see something like that?
To be honest, I just think about, I know a lot of people may think about me, but I just think about our team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we were so close, man. A lot of people don't realize that. I think any team that is able to do what we did, you have to be close, right? The guys have to get along, and I just remember that, and I think that's what I missed the most. Even when I got suspended from LSU, it was like it wasn't so much the bright lights and the the getting free stuff. I was trying to run away from that. It was more so my teammates, right? Like, and hanging out at the WCA and just being around those guys, talking ball, like, so I feel like a lot of those guys inspired me. I never really had big dreams, until I went to LSU, and a lot of those guys had dreams of going first round, being the first pick, and I'm like, what? This is cool stuff. So I think about those guys more than anything.
Man, Tyrann, watching those highlights, I can remember being in those NFL locker rooms when y'all were having that special run that y'all had that year, and guys would just come up to me and they'd be like, man, this LSU team, tell me about number 7. I remember when he was number 14, but now you got that 7 on, and it's even different. I can remember Antonio Gates coming to my locker and be like, the honey badger, every time you would make a play. But he would talk about the returns as well. Like the defensive plays were incredible. He would talk about your return skills. And I've wanted to ask you this for like 3 or 4 years now. why have you not been a returner in the NFL? They're missing something.
Yeah,
My
what's
man,
up?
I know you've got the skill set. Is that something that they just know you're too valuable at safety? They don't want to put you in harm's way?
Well, I initially my rookie year, well, first of all, I'll say this: I've always been on a team with guys that can return just as good as me, right? Like,
Okay.
I get drafted to Arizona. And Pat,
We've seen those returns. Pat Pete can too. You're right.
Pat's got the rookie record, and he's dynamic from a punt return standpoint. But I think what really happened was I actually ended up getting hurt my first year in the NFL returning a kick. Ever since that day, Bruce Arians was like, "No, hell no, he's not doing it. I don't care if anybody put him back there. I'm firing you." And so that's why you've really never seen me back there again. I think Bruce Arians told the whole NFL never catch a punt again.
I knew there had to be a story because we've seen those returns, man. That year, anybody that kicked the ball
Georgia
to you,
return
it was
that
foolish.
didn't score is the best return I've maybe ever seen in my life. Those are some of the weirdest cuts I've ever seen a player make. Like, is that just pure instinct at that point?
Yeah, and I think in my mind, I grew up in New Orleans, and I actually New Orleans. I just like to talk about me, but we grew up playing, pitch up tackle in the backyard.
Yeah.
So making 10 guys miss at a time was like, it wasn't sort of like impossible. Like, it was like everybody could do that. You know what I mean? So I just kind of, it always stuck with me, man. Even growing up playing offense, and then kind of, transition to defense, my sophomore year in high school, I always missed that side of the ball, so, and then I always grew up watching Ed Reed, Deion Sanders, guys like that, so they made it fun to play defense,
Tyrann, I got to ask you about one of your teammates. After the Super Bowl, I declared him the unquestioned king of the NFL. As a defensive player, what's it like having to practice against and then get to play with Pat Mahomes every day?
Well, it's extremely difficult, right? For one, I'll tell you this because we won the Super Bowl last year, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't think we caught an interception last year. Like the whole spring, I think we started to get him like training camp. We was able to kind of disguise, get a little pressure on, put pads on. But the spring is like, nobody could get a hand on the ball.
Damn.
And I'm like, this kid got a string on the ball, like. But once you sit down and really understand him, he's processing everything way faster than you think. So, like, the ability for him to go from one thing to the next is like second nature. Like, it's natural. He's not disturbed. He's not uncomfortable. And for him to be able to do, I always tell people this, like, he's still young. Like, I don't think he's really tapped into, like, his true ability as a quarterback. Like, he's still figuring it out. But I don't think we got our hand on the ball, man.
Tyrann,
I think that really, and then it was a new defense, right? Like, we had a new defensive scheme, so it wasn't something he's seen before. I don't think Spags didn't coach in NFL the year before, so it wasn't like he had a tape on this system. You know what I mean? So he just understood what we were doing, and it was fascinating, man. I was impressed.
Tyrann, that first day you got there and that first practice y'all had, did you notice just that team speed from day one? Like, okay, everybody that comes out here on this offense can absolutely fly.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's really, Coach Reed and really Eric Bieniemy, you're right? Like, I think those guys are the guys that are really telling those guys, to work as hard as they can within a play. It's going to affect the defense, and, we see 5 guys lining out, or, in many cases with their offense, they get 5 guys out every play, right? And if you're able to see how fast they get out as a deep safety, you're like, what's going on? Like, and, it kind of puts you on your feet as a defense once you realize that not only do they got track speed on the offense, but everybody is working fast. So it puts a little extra pressure defensively. That's why I tell my guys to kind of relax. Like, they want us to be, uptight. You know what I mean?
They're trying to get you on edge. I'm scrolling through the next season, and I'm not seeing the Bengals on there. But what are you gonna do to Joe Burrow the first time you line up across from an NFL game?
Hey, man, I love Joe. Somebody somebody asked me yesterday on Instagram. It was like, hey man, who's the better player this decade? From LSU. I was like, hey, I give it to Joe. So I'm a big Joe fan, but I mean, if Joe knows anything about me, man, he know he got to get after it. He knows we're gonna get after it.
I used to love playing against LSU guys in the NFL, man, because like you turned it to 11. Cool. Like you would turn it up, and because the last thing you wanted was your guy to be able to get you and have those bragging rights there for a year.
100%.
Yeah, I remember going against Ryan Clark the first time. Like, man, I can't let this old savvy vet try to get me here on this blitz.
There's going to be a lot of new faces for you to mess with, Tyrann, next year. There's about to be a lot of guys going off the board.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, when you looked at that offense real quick, and I know we're keeping you here, we appreciate your time, my man.
Nah, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
When you look at that offense from last year, of course, Joe Burrow just absolutely stood out. The receiver stood out. But I want to ask you about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back, because my man, he could do it all, right? He was running over people. He was running past people. He had the spin move there. You play against some of the best running backs in the NFL, and sometimes you're matched up with them, right? His skill set to me is going to transition from day one into the NFL. How do you view Clyde in the NFL next year?
I probably view him in that same. I probably say I do view him in that same light. I'm fortunate, right? I get to kind of play against receivers. I get to cover running backs, so I get to. Like I tell people, I got more resources than a lot of players, right? Like I just get more information.
Yeah.
But I think Clyde reminds me a lot of guys like Austin Eckler, right? Like
a
guy that can truly impact the game like every play. And I think when guys like that are on the field, you have to account for them. And you can't account for those guys with a guy that can't run with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't. You have to put a guy on him that can really cover him. And I say that to say that because Austin Eckler gave us headaches.
I was about to say that sounds like he jumped out in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, just the ability to be able to run the ball, to have that threat, and to also have the threat of, hey man, he could run a deep 7 route out of his backfield, and it could be on the linebacker or a defensive end, and so. I think he kind of reminds me of that, and I feel like he'll truly be an X factor for any team that picks him up day one, without a doubt. Yeah.
Catching up with Tyrann Mathieu here on Hanging with Hester. All right, Tyrann, I told you this yesterday when we were talking. I don't know how this happened. My soon-to-be 7-year-old this weekend is a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Yeah,
I played for the biggest rivals, the Chargers and the Broncos.
Championship.
I understand. It was before that.
They're the Super Bowl
I
champs.
played against the Chiefs 12 times in my career. He still picked the Chiefs. And you know that you're my guy when I allow a Kansas City Chiefs jersey to come into my house and be worn. And it's only because it's you there for the birthday coming up from my man Hudson.
Oh, man. So tell Hudson I said happy birthday and tell him I said the Go Chiefs.
There you go. Chiefs Kingdom.
Hey, last one. I promise we're going to get you out of here. We appreciate your time again, man. The Kansas City weather. I have to ask you because I had an experience there. We were playing against the Chiefs, and it was like the perfect day. It was like 80 degrees. There was no wind. We were in Arrowhead. We come back out of halftime, and it's like 37 degrees. It's about to start snowing, and the wind is howling like you've never seen before. That happened like 3 or 4 times that I played in Arrowhead. I don't know how y'all deal with that because every trip I had there, it was the loudest NFL stadium, and the weather always changed and made it miserable.
Yeah, man. Hey, that was kind of like my biggest – like I didn't even think about it, right? Like I was just so excited about the opportunity to come to Kansas City. I didn't even think about the weather, right?
Oof.
And after I signed my contract, I finally thought about the weather. I'm like, I've never played in the cold.
Yeah.
I've never played in the snow. Like, I wonder how it's going to impact me. But, I mean, the weather out here is crazy. Like, some days we get beautiful days, and, the next day it's like, blizzard. So, and then I'll tell you this quick story, too. So, I didn't invest in a shovel. Like I told you, I've never lived in these kind of conditions. So I didn't invest in a shovel. And so, like this whole winter that just passed, like my neighbors would just be honking their horn, like, "Yo, you gotta clean up your driveway." And I was like, "Yo," I go in the garage and I'm like, "Yo, I don't even have a shovel, man. Like I'm just completely, I don't even know where I'm at. I miss Louisiana."
Yeah. Tell the HOA people to settle down, man. We're not used to that. We're not used to snow. We don't know how to shovel snow. We don't know how to get ice off our windshield. We don't know about that world.
At all.
Oh, man. Hey, Tyrann, this has been a lot of fun for me and T-Bob, man. You gave us 20 great minutes.
Yeah.
I knew you would. Thank you so much for this time, man. Hopefully the NFL season starts when it's supposed to start so we can see you getting back on the field and defending that Super Bowl championship.
Yeah. Appreciate it, fellas. Anytime, man. Thank y'all.